Joining me now, Barbara F. Walter, Rohr Professor of International Relations at the University of California, San Diego, and author of How Civil Wars Start and How to Stop Them. And Carol Anderson, Professor of African American Studies at Emory University and author of White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. Two great guests. Thank you both very much for coming to the Saturday show. We just heard that clip of Trump telling Black and Hispanic voters that migrants are to blame for their problems. He's been saying this on the campaign trail since the 2016 election. But Carol, I want both of you to talk about this. But Carol, you start. Talk about how this us versus them strategy is vital for a would-be autocrat like Trump.
It is standard divide and conquer. How do I get people pitted against each other? How do I make them just point their fingers at each other saying, you are the source of my agony. You are the source of my pain. You are the source of why I am unemployed. You are the source of why I have to live paycheck to paycheck. Instead of being able to look at the larger system and see what that system is doing in terms of the folks like Donald Trump who passed these trillion-dollar tax relief plans for billionaires, and then basically contract on the needs and the rights of working class folk. And so divide and conquer is a strategy where people point the finger at each other. And it is also designed to break apart pieces of the Democratic coalition. So when he says it's about votes, it's about his votes.
Barbara?
So Donald Trump, all he cares about right now is getting elected in November. That is his main objective. And he knows it's going to be very close. And he knows that in order to guarantee success, he needs to peel off voters from the Democratic Party. And what we're seeing from the polls is that there are some African-American voters, Latino voters, maybe some Jewish voters who are becoming more sympathetic to Trump's more socially conservative and pro-Israel message. And I think he's doubling down on that. But I wanted to say something else, especially about Jewish voters. What he said this week was not directed at them. Jewish voters represent a very small percentage of the American electorate. They vote heavily in favor of Democrats, and they tend to live in heavy blue states. They are not going to swing the election for him. What he said this week about Jewish voters was directed at his base, his evangelical Christian base, who he also needs to bring out to vote in November in order to win. And that base is both very, very pro-Israel for reasons related to the Christian religion and what they believe will be the second coming of Christ in Israel. But they're also real strands of anti-Semitism in that base. And what he said this week basically said, you can't be Jewish, and you can't be pro-Israel if you don't vote for me. That's both anti-Semitic, and it very much signals to his base that he is all in on Israel. And that's a win-win for him.
But Barbara, well, let's talk about his knock on Catholics for supporting Biden. And I was curious about his use of the word persecuted. Why does the word persecuted hold such power for an authoritarian?
Oh, why does the word, wow, that's a tough question. Persecuted, because if you feel persecuted, if you feel threatened and insecure and you're living in fear, you want somebody to protect you, and you want a strong man or woman in power who you believe can do that for you. Democracies are kind of messy, and there's uncertainty involved with democracy. Who's going to win? How are they going to rule? What policies are going to they're going to follow? And the part of the authoritarian playbook is to create an environment of fear, of threat, of perceived persecution or future persecution, and then convince them that the only person that can protect them is you.
And, you know, Carol, Trump said on Fox recently that he uses incendiary language like this to get people thinking about very important issues. Come on now. Is that a legitimate excuse?
No, he uses that incendiary language because he has consistently trolled in racist ideology. And again, so when you think about the January 6th insurrection. What he did was he said they stole the election in Atlanta. They stole the election in Philadelphia. They stole it in Detroit. They stole it in Milwaukee. And so he's pointing to these places that have sizable Black populations and basically saying these Black people, they stole a hardworking democracy from you, good, honest, hardworking white folk. And so that's why when you look at that insurrection and you see the Confederate flag being flown in the middle of the Capitol building, it begins to tell you about what he's doing in terms of using that language, in terms of lighting the fire, in terms of getting his folks riled up. Because at that same speech in Dayton, he talked about bloodbath. And again, that is that kind of triggering language. But so in that speech about bloodbath, you also have these pieces about Catholics, about Jews, about migrants, and that they're not really human. I mean, it's all part of a larger piece of demonizing folk. Yeah.
So then, Barbara, I mean, we've got less than 90 seconds, but what do you say to people who are not taking what Donald Trump is saying seriously or even aware of the risks of a second Trump term?
I would say to them that this election is probably going to be the most consequential election in the history of the United States. I would state it that strongly, and I'm not one to use hyperbole. Trump has told us exactly what he wants to do. And one of the things that he said is if he gets into power, he's not going to leave power again. So I could see us having a Trump presidency for the next 20 years. He's told us that he's going to, in his words, clean out the Justice Department and install people who are loyal to him. He's going to take a series of actions that are going to concentrate power in his own hands, and then he's going to wield it against his enemies and against democracy. So take him seriously and vote. Vote.
Yes.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not? Please. Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion! Security, please bring him up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. What's readiness? What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark aircraft. General you need to immediately evacuate everything. Hold on. National security advisory. Stand down. Check it out. There is a celebration. The amateurs on a suicide mission.